Um, Good afternoon. My name is Joanne Wong, and I am the Director of Corporate Services at the Greater New England Minority Supplier Development Council. Thank you so much for taking the time today to participate in our How to Do Business with series. We have the team from Iron Mountain here today, and it consists of Angela Cooper Washington. Angela Cooper. I'm sorry, is that Angela Cooper Robinson? Dan Surahal and Bill Silvio. They will be speaking about the procurement process at Iron Mountain and also the supplier diversity program. So I just want to say thank you to Iron Mountain for joining Greater New England Minority Supplier Development Council as a silver level annual sponsor. We really could not do our work without the support of our annual sponsors. So thank you so much. It really is critical to our programming. And just a few housekeeping items before we get started. So we will be recording the session. This presentation will be shared following the conclusion of the event. And while we do have a large number of attendees, the team at Iron Mountain really wants this to be an interactive presentation. So you will be asked during certain points to unmute yourself, and you can raise your hand. You can also use the chat function to make sure that we don't miss any of your questions, and so those will be addressed at the end as long as there's time, and we will get started. So I'm going to share the presentation, and it will just be 1 second. Okay, so I'll turn it over to Angela.
So much, Joanne. I appreciate that. So I'm waiting on the presentation, the first slide, Joanne.
And Joanne, I think we're still looking at the How to Do Business PDF right now on the presentation. There we go.
Perfect. So good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to How to Do Business with Iron Mountain. We are very happy that you're joining us for this presentation today. And before we get started, we want to make sure that we start off with some introductions. So first, I'm Angela Robinson, and I'm the Supplier Diversity Manager with Iron Mountain. This is a new position for me as I started Q1 of this year. Previously, I was responsible for the global marketing and sales for procurement within Iron Mountain. And then prior to that, I was with Legacy Recall, which was actually a competitor of Iron Mountain. And there I was responsible for all the procurement activities for everything outside of IT and also marketing services. And while there, I was also part of the Institute of Supply Chain Management Supplier Diversity Board.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for being with us today. My name is Dan Cyril. I'm Director of our Operations Sourcing team within Iron Mountain's Global Procurement Department. So my team manages goods and services, procurement strategy for goods and services across all of the businesses in our enterprise that relate to helping our operation out in the field kind of run things. Been at Iron Mountain over 8 years in a variety of different roles within the operations area and the global procurement department. And prior to that, I spent 7 years at a boutique consulting firm called ICG Commerce out of the Philadelphia area, and worked for clients such as Goodyear, Hertz Rental Car, Greif Packaging, Kimberly Clark, and a number of other Fortune 500 companies in a procurement function. And I'll turn it over to Bill to introduce yourself.
Great, thanks, Dan. So I'm Bill Silvio. I've been with Iron Mountain for 14 years. In the entirety of that time, I've been in a role where I'm interfacing with our largest clients. So my title right now is a Director of Customer and Business Development, which means I manage a team of salespeople, sales professionals that help to develop the work that we do with our largest customers around the world. Oh, Angela, you're on mute, sorry.
Thanks, Bill. Joanne, if you can move to the next slide, that'd be great. So for our agenda today, we want to provide you with a detailed overview of Iron Mountain and make sure that you really understand the services that we provide, because that's going to be helpful for you to understand the goods and services that we're going to be searching for. And Bill's going to provide an overview of that. Next, Dan will complement the conversation by providing some details in terms of how to do business with Iron Mountain. And he will go into depth some of the services that we're looking for and goods that we're looking for as well. And then lastly, I'll guide you through how to register as a potential supplier with Iron Mountain and also provide you with the details of our supplier diversity program. So with that said, one thing that Joanne did mention, and we want to make sure that you understand this too, we want to make sure that this presentation is conversational. So please feel free to ask questions during the discussion and you'll be prompted at certain points in the conversation as well. With that said, I'd like to turn it over to Bill.
Great, great. And Joanne, let's just keep it on this slide for a second before we go to the next one. Thanks, Angela. And thank you all for giving us this time. You've been gracious with it. I know everyone's schedules are hectic, I'm sure, in the midst of everything that's going on in the world. And one thing I wanted to just double down on that Angela had said is that I want my section of this, as does Dan and Angela, we want the entirety of the next hour that we're going to spend together to be interactive. It might sound strange coming from a person who has sales in their title and manages salespeople, but I don't like being salesy. I like to talk with people and have people talk back and forth. So please utilize the raise your hand functionality in Zoom or put messages into chat. I would say to raise your hands like in real life, like I'm doing right now, but I don't know that I can see everyone at the same time. And one note, if my angle that I'm coming across that looks odd, I was saying this before the call started to the rest of the team. I don't think any of you have met me before, but I'm 6'6" and I've just moved to a stand-up desk. So if it looks like the ceiling is precariously close to my head, it's because it is. Anywho, so Angela, let's go to the next slide. All right, so this is the first interactive part of the presentation, and please put in what your guesses are into the Zoom group chat here. What do you think that all of the people on this slide, or all of the things and or people on this slide have in common? And if you're guessing, they're at like the world's most interesting dinner party, you wouldn't be entirely wrong. But does anyone have any guesses? This is kind of a simple question. Oh, yeah, that's true. That's true. They are famous. Although I hope that more and more people, as we go through time, can identify Abraham Lincoln by picture. Household names, good one. Icons, agreed. Although Texas Roadhouse, some people in the South may disagree. They all have records. Also very, very good. And Jack is spot on, right? This is kind of like the easy one, right? They're all Iron Mountain clients. They all share the trust that all of our clients have with us. So Joanne, can go to the next slide. And that's really what's at the core of what we do as a company, right? So the four examples in the previous slide, we had the Texas Roadhouse Company. So you guys may all know them, guys and gals know them as a nationwide chain of restaurants. They had over 500 locations. When we started working with them, we were able to consolidate all of the paper records, the electronic records, the data backups, the HR hiring workflow processes, and the AP functions centrally, so they can manage their business more effectively nationally. Abraham Lincoln, we didn't sign a contract with him himself, but through our historic preservation efforts, working with a couple of nonprofit organizations in Illinois, we're able to digitize, preserve, and actually make interactive a number of letters that Abraham Lincoln has written, his correspondence throughout his life, before the Civil War, during the Civil War, even after the Civil War, up to and including when he was an attorney. So just some fascinating, American history that we're able to preserve and to share with the rest of the country. CBS Interactive. CBS Interactive is a top 10 web entity. So they're one of the actually 10 largest web traffic organizations, I'll say it, in the world. Our data centers group, who I bet you a lot of you don't know that we did data centers, but our data centers team was able to work with CBS Interactive and consolidate where all of their data on the web flows and provide a more efficient backend through hosting and co-locating their servers in Iron Mountain data centers. And we're actually able to cut their costs by 2/3, a huge amount, and actually deliver back to them an amazing improvement in their overall sustainability footprint through the green power pass, we call it, but this is sustainable energy that powers our data centers. And then I don't know if you can all recognize Ozzy Osbourne, aka the Prince of Darkness, aka the lead singer of Black Sabbath and the Ozzy Osbourne band. But there is a wonderful episode of a show called Jack and Ozzy's World Tour on the History Network that I would direct you all to check out after this, where Jack Osbourne, who was Ozzy Osbourne's son, brought Ozzy Osbourne to an Iron Mountain facility in Western Pennsylvania. It's an underground facility that we have. It's 220 feet underground in a limestone cave. We have 2,000 people that work there every day. And a huge piece of what they do there is supporting the entertainment services industry. And so another piece of Iron Mountain's business model is that we support and store and help to digitize and share original film, sound, music, and video recordings. So we have the original master track recordings of, in this example, the song Crazy Train, which was on the episode. And Jack brought Ozzy Osbourne to the underground vault, said, "I've got a birthday present for you, Dad." He did it in a British accent that I can't do. He spooled up the original recording of Crazy Train, and Ozzy Osbourne, you can watch the episode, teared up. He started to cry at an Iron Mountain facility. So trust, right? All of these things are clients, people, organizations, businesses, individuals at the end of the day, entrusting us with valuable assets. So my second question for the team, when you think of Iron Mountain, if you had to pick one word, what's the first thing that comes to mind? Just pop it in the chat. My grandfather always like, oh, the shredders. You guys do the shredders. Security, document storage, security. Okay, good. Shredding. Yep. All right, security, storage. Great. Perfect. So the great part is security is spot on. Data security. Excellent. Security is spot on. That's synonymous with trust, right? We are an incredibly sound, secure, reliable, incredibly safe organization to work with in regards to managing clients' information. How we do that is what a lot of people don't know. People think, like you said, storage, document storage, shredding. Those are the things that people see because the Iron Mountain truck is driving by them on the street and there's a big, shredding buzzsaw on a lot of them. And all that's true. But for a $3.5 billion company, the shredding business, for example, only makes up less than 10% of our overall revenue stream. And so you can see on the slide here, not just the paper documents that you might see, but iconic songs in the case of Ozzy Osbourne, geological rock samples. So when companies are doing drilling and testing for oil rigs, the analysis of these core samples are really important. We help them do that, and we store some of the core samples, digitize some of the information about it. Films, priceless art. We have an entire art storage services, moving, sharing company that's built into Iron Mountain. Pathology slides. All of these things that are not just paper documents or shredding them that you may know are things that we do. And Joanne, you can go to the next slide. And what it comes down to is that we are when we have a client and we've got, you'll see on the next slide, over 225,000 of them. They're trusting something to us. We are the trusted guardians of our customers' information and assets. I'm not going to read this slide verbatim, but I'm sorry, you're on the next slide. But yeah, it gets, can you go back one, Joanne? I'm sorry. There you go. One more. Perfect. but that's what, the gist of what we do is. And sometimes it's hard to explain what does Iron Mountain do, because we're a pretty broad services company. But to distill it into one sentence, we're the trusted guardians of our customers' information and assets, right? And it's a two-way street with our clients. We're not just storing items, data, information, records. We are helping our clients get the most out of that, and that's what really is helping us to transition from where we were when we were founded in the 1950s up through the 1970s and 80s, and now as we're evolving into the 2020s and beyond. It's about our vision is about helping our clients make the most of what information they do have, not just keeping it stagnant, but getting it to be active. Okay, so the next slide you can go to now. So real quick, just some bullet point stats of who we are in case you don't know. Again, we're actually about a $4.2 billion company globally, 225,000 or so customer accounts. Worldwide, we've got about 26,000 employees. And this is an interesting stat. For those that are interested in us on a corporate level, we're a real estate investment trust is actually our tax designation. And we're one of the largest commercial real estate holders in the world. We've got over 1,400 facilities worldwide, and that's actually growing, particularly with our data centers space. If you go to the next slide, this is a great map, just where we are. So you can see pretty much every developed market we're in. There's a couple of gray areas that we're working on, but our current CEO, his playbook for the growth of the company is exactly this: to make sure that we are a consistent global provider for organizations, governments, consumer clients, whatever it might be, but to help them manage their physical or digital information. And a couple of those gray areas have actually even started to change since this was created, particularly in the Middle East and some of the areas in Africa. One more slide that's got some more numbers. So when it comes to like, what do we do? You probably still maybe not, you can't answer like, what do you actually do? Again, I give it my grandfather test. So what is it that you do? So this is a great example of the actual work that we've done. This is in 2019. We digitized 1.21 billion images, okay? For a frame of reference, a standard box of paper records that you may know, like the small banker's box, there's about 2,000 to 2,500 images in that box. So you can imagine how many boxes of either paper or drawings or blueprints that is. In the middle of the right column, 8 million shredding engagements. What that means is individual times where he picked up a shredding bin. Those are the things that people kind of know us best for. And then below that, 675 million cubic feet of hard copy records. Again, just want to give some scope to that. If you're familiar with a 53-foot tractor trailer, like the ones you see on the highway that are driving down and they're huge, that's about 1,000 cubic feet of records. So 675 million is a lot of tractor trailers, and that's around the globe. But then we get into the more interesting stuff, pieces of media. That could be data tapes, that could be old film reels, that could be new data tapes, that could be optical discs, that could be a number of things that contain data physically. But disaster events. So in our data center space, one of the things that we help organizations do is if there's a failure, if there's a weather event, like Angela's down in the south right now where we've had some pretty bad weather, we have customers that are engaging their disaster recovery plan right now with us, where we're helping them to get back up and running because their main building is flooded or has had wind damage and things like that. So we make sure that they can have access to their data, their documents, their systems in the event of an emergency. So we worked through about 500 of those last year. And the tests to prepare for those, we did over 45,000 of those last year as well. You can go to the next slide, Joanne. So the one, again, those are all big numbers. I don't expect anyone to remember any of them other than, wow, those are some big numbers. If there is one number that you do remember, it's this one. So 95% of the Fortune 1000 are Iron Mountain clients. So in the US, obviously the Fortune 1000, 1,000 largest companies, publicly traded or otherwise, 95% of them are Iron Mountain clients. And outside of the Fortune 1000, again, in that 225,000 customers, there's a number of consumer clients. We've got a number of private clients in the art space. We have a huge amount of work we do with the US federal government, with the Canadian government, with various governments in Europe that are included in this number. State governments, municipalities, cities, all those things are not included in the Fortune 1000, but it gives you an idea as to the scope of our company. And the thing that matters the most to us as employees of Iron Mountain is that our clients trust us. So I see a great question coming in here in the chat. So I'll jump into that right now. So this is a question from Heidi. Heidi says, how has our business changed, expanded, or contracted during COVID, especially how we all have been pivoted to remote? It's a perfect question because this speaks to like, what is it that we do? So our internal business, ourselves, we have been fortunate in that we're designated as an essential business, right? So at no point during the COVID-19 crisis have we stopped operating. In fact, a number of our areas have been busier than they ever have been. Now, that being said, some of our businesses which support businesses like retail, for example, have been very slow. So if you can picture a major retailer that might have thousands of locations, if it's a clothing store that might be a client of ours, if their stores were closed for 4 months, then we're not doing any shredding work in those stores for 4 months. So that piece of the business in some ways has pivoted, to your point. The exciting part for us is that we have been anticipating a change in our clients' behaviors for years now, where we have felt that people are going to have more of a focus on remote access to their information. Now, whether that be scanning documents, because that's essentially what it is. Scanning a document takes a piece of paper that needs to be right in front of you and makes it a piece of paper that can be anywhere in the entire world. It doesn't matter if you're in the office. That's been something that we've been doing for years. But these business support services, so the disaster recovery services that we do, has had a huge uptick. The data centers business, if you take a look at our earnings call, has had just remarkable growth because people are pivoting to more remote, so the stress on their servers is much more. The imaging business for us has seen an extreme improvement. But more importantly, through the COVID-19 crisis, we have been able to develop new businesses in the middle of this to help our clients. I mean, I'm talking about in the last 4 months, we've helped, one great example that our CEO talked about on the earnings call, so I can speak about it publicly, is that we helped the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania process a huge amount of unemployment claims. So with the amount of unemployment claims that were being submitted to people being out of work in COVID-19, the Commonwealth wasn't able to support that volume and couldn't manage the exceptions. And if you're applying for unemployment, I mean, until your application gets processed, you don't get any money. So this is a vital service to the citizens of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. We worked with the Commonwealth in just an absolute blitz of like a 3-week session where we developed, stood up, and are currently performing a service where we basically do that work with them. So we provide all the imaging, all of the relocation of the documents, all the exceptions that are getting mailed out and back and forth are being co-located and put to a single facility where we process them for the Commonwealth. And it's taken them from having a backlog of literally millions of applicants to being caught up in real time where people are receiving benefits. So that's something, again, we don't typically talk about our customers by name, again, because we're in a security-based business, but that's an example that our CEO, we have clearance to speak about, and our CEO particularly is proud of. So I hope that maybe answered part of your question, Heidi. Thanks. And there's other ones too. The consumer business for us has been launched in earnest. We've always tried to kind of identify how we can support consumers at home, and now a lot of employees are working from home with corporate documents. So a lot of consumers are, in some cases, rare cases, but some cases, working with physical documents from home that if they were in the office, they would need to put into an Iron Mountain shredding bin. So now how do you manage those when you're at your house? You can't put them in the trash. So we've actually launched a complete residential shred business. I mean, we built and launched that in 3 months. The great part is because we have those 1,400 locations, we've got these 33,000 trucks, 26,000 employees, we can pivot really quickly. So I hope that was a couple of good examples there. If you just go to the next slide, Joanne, just so we can keep on time here. And then I'll stop talking and Dan can pick it up. But were there any other questions, because this is the last slide that I'm going to cover, but were there any other questions around kind of what it is that we do? Or any other questions about Iron Mountain as a company in general that people might have right now? And if you do, you can either take yourself off mute or you can put them in the chat. And I'll keep going. So this, again, this is still probably too much for like my grandfather. He would need to say, do you shred paper, Billy? What do you do? But this is a good visual representation of what information management really is. And to kind of loop everything together here, we talked about, oh, Iron Mountain is storage. Iron Mountain is destruction. Iron Mountain is digitization. Those are all pieces of the overall life cycle of information, right? A document or a piece of data is born, is created, and we can work with clients on the what's called digital transformation and helping to make more of that information digital from the get-go, so it never even gets put into paper, or creating some workflows where the digital information and the physical information work together in one cohesive unit. Then there's the storage of that information, right? Once it's created, it needs to be managed for some period of time. That varies, but we do that very well. Our cloud business, our data centers business, and again, physical storage business are all things that we do and supported by a number of teams. And then whenever that life cycle is up, in the case of Ozzy Osbourne, that's never going to get shredded, right? But for a financial record that might need to be shredded after 7 years, or a server that has to be purged in a compliant way after 3 years, or whatever it might be, the destruction of that information could be physical, it could be electronic, whatever it might be. That's the third piece of the life cycle of information that we manage. So we're right in the middle of that in the Venn diagram where we touch all three pieces. We can also help to advise on the best ways to work with it all. So for, again, someone who doesn't want to be salesy, I hope it didn't oversales you all. But that's my piece. Dan, I mean, what do you think? I mean, what are your comments on this slide?
So yeah, I mean, it's actually a great, the trying not to be salesy is a great segue, because there's a specific reason why we want to educate everybody on who we are generally, because that's kind of like the first, I want to stay on the slide for a second, but my first kind of message to the group here is, when you engage our corporate procurement function, the best thing to come with is some information about who we are. Because, and this slide is, I think, always, like, I actually try to like regurgitate this slide verbally whenever I first talk to anybody, because the first thing I do is try to explain who we are and what we do, and the things that Bill hit on, especially those areas of growth that we see, like image on demand, certain areas in the consumer space, some things driven by the pandemic. If you start to kind of follow the thread there, right? If we're expanding our imaging business, and that's directly resulting from some of the evolution of our business in general, and which was always part of our plan, there's certain supplies and services that are going to be increasing going forward, and that's what the procurement organization is out there looking for, trying to find good partners for, because at the end of the day, almost all of our businesses are very people driven. And as we expand, we need plans, and a sophisticated procurement organization is tied in with our sales organization, our marketing organization, our operation, and how do we best enable them to do that in a way to deliver great service in our customers and not have kind of gaps in how we do that. So I directly correlated, Bill, to the conversations that we're trying to have today. It's going to line up with where customers are interested in doing more business with us.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Exactly, Dan. And just, one question came up in the chat that I just want to just do 30 seconds on, because I think that actually ties into what you just said. A lot of what we do is our infrastructure. but the value in what we do are the people that operate within that infrastructure, right? And the vendors that we work with that help us to provide these services. And a question came in from Arvin about our colo business and about our SaaS business, and that might be storage as a service. So the colo business, or we might call it the data center business, is a really, really good example of what we're looking, the area that we're looking with the greatest focus to grow in. So right now, globally, we're at 20 data centers. In the US, we're at 12. We are in all of the the markets where the hyperscale clients want us to be, particularly in Northern Virginia, where our biggest infrastructure is. We are building out data centers at a huge amount. It's actually the largest capital investments that we're doing as a company are the build out of our data center space, and there's a lot more to come. But the important thing about our data centers, I mean, there are other data center providers out there, right? Where this fits in with our client base is that it's a part of the wheel, okay? So, we can provide rack space, cooling, electricity, power, all that kind of stuff to clients in a colo facility. But we also have a remote hand service, right? Which means that if you need someone to run a tape backup in that colo facility, we do that. A lot of times the tapes are going to an Iron Mountain vault. So they're going to stay within the chain of custody of Iron Mountain to go from one Iron Mountain facility to another. A lot of times at the end of their life cycle, those tapes may need to be migrated to a different platform. We do that as well. And at the end of their life cycle, they need to be destroyed. We also do that. And then, the other sort of the cloud businesses or the storage as a service businesses that we have, they're kind of in two different areas. A lot of them are in the digital transformation space. We have a wonderful partnership with Google right now on a service that we have called Insight, where we are providing cloud-based analytics to our customers' data. Meaning, if a customer has a series of documents that are uploaded into our cloud, we can plug in this analytics platform and provide feedback, can provide observations about that. This can also be on a database format where these analytics can be laid over. It can be on video, where we're providing or we're performing analytics on visual data. There's been a lot of that that we've been working on in the last year that has been really well received. I'm sorry, it says IaaS. So, and then the colo service inclusive of contact centers as well as data centers. So right now our colo service is completely housed within our data centers. So the remote hand services that we perform, for example, we would be able to work on equipment and servers which are in our data centers, or which are at customer sites, or in other colo providers. So if there's some equipment that you have in SunGard, and you simply need you need an employee to go in and do the tape swap and then bring them to the Iron Mountain truck and then transport them, we can perform that as well. So, and again, I don't want to take too much time on this because we can do questions at the end, but I just want to make sure those two specific questions were brought up. And if there's any other questions, I can address those at the end to make sure we get through the rest of Dan and Angela's slides.
Great, thanks, Bill. And thanks again, everybody, for being here. And as I mentioned, I kind of think of what Bill just ran through as like the professional version of what I try to do the first time I speak to any suppliers, because I try to go through and explain who we are, because it's so important to having that right conversation. So with that said, Joanne, could you flip? I think it might be a slide or two down. Yeah. So again, the first point here, right, is have questions prepared that demonstrate you have a general understanding of who we are. That is such a big first step in having that first conversation with anyone within our organization, and utilize some of the information that Bill gave that's available. You can find on our website as well. Generally, where do you fit in there, and how can you use that to kind of drive a conversation with someone like myself or some of my peers or the folks on our teams in the corporate procurement function? Because we'll be very good at trying to find opportunities where there's potential fit to work with somebody. But the more you can kind of get us down that path, the more engagement you're probably going to get. In my experience, dialogue is very good. We don't expect you to know everything about us, but it's always a very good thing for you to know enough to kind of ask the right questions and know who you're talking to too, right? So my team space is within the operation. So anything specific to how we're doing something physically is usually kind of where the category managers in my team are going to be focused. Any questions or comments there? Because I think that was kind of like a good segue from what Bill had presented, and then the idea of just really understanding who we are and what we're trying to do as a way to engage the corporate procurement folks. I'm going to get in on the next slide, Brooke. I'm going to get into some category specific things, but I can tell you we work with an MSP for our whole contingent workforce in North America. The next thing, as you're engaging with us, what differentiates you from your competitors? And this is just a general tip in working with anybody in a procurement function. Where our mind should be going right away is asking questions and probing to understand how you're differentiating yourself from your competitors. So understanding, again, going back to that first point, understanding who we are and what we do and where we're trying to go, and asking questions about kind of our goals and where the business is going. Is a great way to kind of figure out where maybe you can fit in versus that's more unique or more niche that aligns with where we're trying to take our business. The other thing to remember is relationships take time, right? The first conversation, especially if it's a cold call or a warm handoff from someone you might know within the organization or through the supplier diversity program registration process or whatever that might be. That first conversation is really to kind of get to know who we are and what we're trying to do. And there's a chance that there could be something immediately that we could look into, but more likely than not, it'll take time to kind of figure out that right fit or what that timing would look like, where there's a real tangible opportunity to participate in a bid or to get engaged with some folks in the business that have a specific opportunity right in front of us that we're trying to find a good partner with. And each one of those conversations can kind of continue to progress forward. So what I would encourage all of you to do is kind of build that relationship. So if there looks like there could be a fit somewhere within our business at some point, have that first point of contact, build that relationship with that individual. And each time you reach out, it's kind of going back to the beginning of what we were just talking about, is how are things going at Iron Mountain? Where do you guys seeing your business grow? What are your pain points? Where are you focused? And we should be asking the same questions of you, right? And then that's usually where we can meet and find, good examples where we can potentially work together. Any comments or questions, or is this kind of ringing a bell for anyone in terms of how you've engaged with us? Or I think a lot of this is applicable to to anyone you all are trying to do business with, or seeing where there's opportunities to work with different companies. Okay, well, feel free to continue to drop things into the chat, and I can see things pop up, and we'll address them as we go here. And what I'm going to do, actually, if I can only see the beginning of people's comments as they come up. So if someone could let me know what they're saying, I can address them real time here. Otherwise, I don't want to skip a beat. If I can.
Danny, the first question was it's from Daxa. It says, we are an IT company specializing in custom software and cloud solutions. My company is also an MBE, WBE, DBE in Rhode Island. would we be able to work with you?
Yeah, so I would need to defer you to somebody else within the corporate procurement organization, but we're going to go through like a registration process at the end of this. So that's the best way to get you to exactly the right person. And Angela's going to talk a little bit more about kind of how we're structured and how we support our supplier diversity program. So short answer is potentially it's not, but we would need to get you to the right person to have that conversation and figure out if there's a fit and what that fit could look like, and what timing that fit could look like. And then I do have the comments up now. So I see from Christopher, is there a specific geographic location where services are needed? So we are, we're global, as Bill mentioned. My team is North America based, and then we have regional teams throughout the world. Our supplier diversity program is very much being built in US and Canada right now. So we're in every major market across North America. So geography is not necessarily a specific target for us. There's some exceptions to that, depending on where there might be certain markets where we're growing a certain business because of a certain industry in that market. But those are more specific. So I'll move through the rest of the slide here. The other tip here is know your limitations. And I say that coming from a place of just being real and honest about what you know and what you don't know. A lot of folks within our corporate procurement department and our category managers are going to have specialized knowledge in certain categories. But a lot of us are covering a broad area and are not necessarily SMEs in everything that we're sourcing for, nor do we expect the people that we're working with to know everything there is about us, or try to set expectations that you could be kind of the end all be all solution, and kind of as opposed to, just figuring out if there's a good fit. So in my experience, the best relationships I've had with our supplier partners are when we've been able to be as transparent as possible with each other to figure out where there's a good fit and where there's not a good fit, and kind of move on from there. And the last piece I'll cover on this slide is RFP rules of engagement. When you do participate in an RFP, thanks, Angela. When we do participate in an RFP, make sure to read all the information and follow all the instructions. Depending on what it is, sometimes RFPs can be extremely detailed, and some individual category managers, depending on the circumstance and depending on what we're trying to do, can end up being, can use instructions as a prerequisite for being able to kind of continue to participate. So make sure you read through all those details. Any questions you have about those details, if you're participating, make sure to ask up front before things hit the street. And because once everything's out there and it's a competitive environment, one of our jobs is to make sure that it's an even playing field. So that means any conversation we have with one participant, we have to make sure we have with everybody, so everybody has the same information. So I just want to stress that as you not just work with us, but with any corporate procurement department. I'm going to jump in the chat here. I see there was a few more before we go into the next slide, which is some specific categories that we manage. Brooke, you had a question about program is vendor neutral. Can you expand on that? I don't know if you can take yourself off mute. And Todd, I'm going to get to specific categories in a second.
Dan, do you have any specific corporate objectives around minority spend? Your overall global spend with minority partners?
I'll defer that to Angela to answer.
Yeah, so I can answer. Yep, I can answer that. And I put a response in the chat as well too. Right now, we don't have specific goals around supplier diversity. However, for 2021, we will. The reason why we don't have them this year is because I just joined the company.
Just started.
Yeah, I just started supplier diversity, and also our CPO Jim Corbett, who is a big supporter of supplier diversity, joined the company this year as well. So we didn't have goals last year, and typically our goals are done the previous year. So that's why we don't have specific goals around it for this year, but we will have definite goals for next year. Thanks for the question.
I think we can move on to the next slide as well. Thanks, Angela. So here's an overview of the different areas of spend and how we categorize them. So this will give you a good idea of kind of how we think about our spend profile. The area I am directly responsible for is everything in that operations space on the top right-hand side of the slide. But I'll do a kind of a quick run through to just give an idea of kind of where there's more opportunity versus maybe more limited opportunity. So we do have a third party partner for all facilities maintenance services. So that any opportunities in that space typically kind of run through that third party. So I just wanted to share that with everybody. Doesn't mean not engage us, but it means, you know, have an expectation. We'll likely be soliciting or facilitating conversations directly with that third party, and I think we could be helpful from that respect. But we're not managing our own supply base, and for some obvious reasons. You saw the 1,500 number in our facilities. We're in every major market across North America, so we have a third-party partner who's managing those local supply bases on how the facilities are being maintained. However, in the construction area, we do again we're across every major market. So any type of general contracting type of work is something we have a construction budget every year that's usually pretty heavy, and we do work with a lot of different general contractors in different parts of the country. So opportunities do regularly come up as we execute against those plans on a year-over-year basis. In the operations space, one thing I'll call out is, as you guys heard, as Bill talked through our services, a lot of our services actually use things like office supplies and delivering services to our customers within our operation. So we do have an office supply partner that we just kicked off a new program with recently. However, we have a lot of project work that comes up, and I did notice, I think there was at least a handful of folks that had signed up for the session today that are in the office supplies and office services space. And so it's good to get plugged in with us, because as these different projects come up, they can be geographic specific at times, and sometimes they're large enough where we might actually go out to bid for the specific project, because it's something that might be repeat, or maybe it's a specific project that we're doing with one customer that we're looking at maybe expanding and trying to sell in other markets, or to other customers that could create more of a partnership. So there's always different things like that kind of going on within the business. So anything in that office supply space, transportation space, it ends up sometimes being kind of start small and expand with us as we build out a particular service offering. The other thing I'll highlight in the operations space is that we put a specific bullet in here called third-party operations partners. What that means is similar to what I was just saying, and also as we talk about people and we talk about transportation. Whenever we have growth in a specific area, many times we might rely on a third party to help us be flexible as we kind of build that growth up or keep up with that growth. And then we also have some areas where our geographic footprint maybe doesn't extend into some more rural areas of the country, for example, in the US, where we might have third-party partners providing shredding services in a place like a rural part of Western Massachusetts or something like that, it might be more advantageous for us to work with somebody in that area versus provide the service ourselves. I used Western Massachusetts as an example because of the audience, but typically that's like a more rural parts of the country. So that idea generally goes to all the different businesses that we outlined earlier. If there's a gap, sometimes we'll rely on third parties to help us deliver service to our customers or to complement our business and enable us to deliver service to our customers because of either a geographic gap or a people gap. With that, why don't I take some questions that are coming in here. Move to the chat. Okay, planning on any technical staffing professional services, RFP or RFIs anytime soon? I can get back to you on this, Sumo. We usually have a pretty steady flow of work. We have multiple partners that we rely on for, I think you're probably coming more from like a staff augmentation, technical staffing type of place. There could be opportunity coming up. I don't know off the top of my head if there's anything specific coming up or that we're gearing up for, but there's individuals within our department, some of which Angela will be highlighting shortly, that'll be able to understand that. So a question from Peter, what's included in professional services? Consulting, the question that was just asked. Anything that, any kind of consulting, any kind of thing that's used to typically support our corporate functions. Education and training from SP. Do you have an opportunity for an MBE to work in education or training services at your organization? That would be considered in professional services, and there's no immediate opportunities that are about to hit the street, but that's absolutely a category that we manage and an area where we would be looking at, and an opportunity to consider an MBE when there's a business that we're looking to go out to market with. Question from Lauren, do you have diversity requirements in RFPs? Yes, we do. Sometimes it can be variable depending on well, actually, maybe I'm misunderstanding your question. If the question is, do we require our sourcing professionals to include diverse suppliers in all RFPs? The answer is yes. And Angela, I'll let you kind of speak to specifics there of how that policy works today.
Sure, yeah. So we do make sure we include diverse suppliers in all the RFPs that go out. If possible, there may be a few categories where there's not any opportunities for diverse suppliers, but we make sure to include diverse suppliers in all of our RFPs. And that's something that we actually started mid-year of 2020. And there's some categories where there may be some set-asides where we're actually looking for diverse suppliers to provide services in that specific area as well too. So we are starting to have those conversations internally and to see what categories can we make that happen in as well.
Thanks, Angela. And question, are office furniture opportunities national or regional? Answer is both. We do, nationally, we may have a, if we decide to do some type of refresh across all of our facilities, or a select portion of the facilities, we might leverage that volume nationally, to try to, you know, leverage the scale and acquire the furniture across markets as much as we can. But there's often regional plays as well. I would have to probably say more regional than national, because it's more likely we're, you know, I'll give an example. We recently had a pretty significant expansion of a facility in Texas, and that was handled regionally. I think we ended up using a local supplier to actually deliver those services tied to kind of doing an upgrade of the whole office environment. And that would in the category structure we have on screen, that would actually fall into that construction area in terms of the folks that would be managing those types of projects.
So Dan, if you don't mind, let me go through the other slides, because I'm looking at time. We're short on time here, which is great. The conversation's been perfect. I'm just going to go over one area. So Joanne, if you can move to the next slide for me real quickly, and then move to the next slide. So I just want to provide an overview in terms of how to register with Iron Mountain. I have a link here, but after the presentation today, I'll send everybody who registered the link that you can click on, as opposed to trying to write this down. And what you'll do is it'll take you over to the page that you see here. You'll click on register. You see this right here specifically. Joanne, if you can move to the next page. And you just go through and complete this registration. What happens is once this information is completed, it's going to be automatically routed to the respective category manager. They're going to review the information. If they want to have follow-up conversations, we'll set something up then. One of the things that we started here with Iron Mountain is something called the pitch. And basically what the pitch is an opportunity for us to understand more about your services. And the audience within Iron Mountain will be a category manager or an internal business unit customer as well. So that's something that we started up, and it's been very successful so far. It's a way for us to develop relationships with you and to really understand what your products and goods and services are, so we can specifically understand where that fits within Iron Mountain. Joanne, if you can move to the next slide. I don't have a chance to go through this, but Joanne, if you can move to the next slide real quickly. We do have a robust supplier diversity program specifically, and it consists of all these 5 different areas. Because of time, I don't have a chance to go through all of that, but the information is here for you. Our team, we have ambassadors, or I should say champions within the procurement team that handles looking at diverse suppliers for specific upcoming RFPs. We have a robust process where we make sure that we incorporate RFPs in all of our diverse suppliers in all of our RFPs. We do have the pitch that I talked about earlier. In terms of our customers, we make sure that we report out to our customers periodically. And then in terms of the ecosystem development, we want to make sure that we provide educational seminars to diverse suppliers as well too. And this is an example of an educational seminar that will help you to do business with Iron Mountain. And then lastly, if you can go to the next slide, Joanne. This is the contact information, so if you have any follow-up questions and things of that nature, feel free to reach out and contact us. And then lastly, the last slide. We appreciate your time today, and thank you guys so much. Again, this deck is going to be sent out to you specifically, so feel free to reach out to us with any questions. So Bill, Dan, and myself, and the Greater New England Minority Supplier Development Council, thanks you so much for participating. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Angela and Bill. And as I mentioned earlier, we will have the session recorded to be shared as well as the presentation. And I will take a log of all of the chat questions and share them as well with the Iron Mountain team so they have all of those to address if they were not able to get to them today. So thank you so much again for your time, and thank you so much, Angela, Dan, and Bill. Have a great day.